All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I'd like to give all praises and glory and honor to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Warkar Kadash, and the Heavenly Father. True name is Yahweh and His unbegotten Son, Bahashem, in the name of Hamashiach Yahweh Shai. Those are the true names in the ancient Paleo Hebrew, the Lashon tongue. And I say Barakatham to the elders and apostles, Wahaki and Wahakwaf, and I say Shalom. And this is a quick sit down lesson of the prophecy of 2026 on this Tuesday afternoon. And it's a news article. Oh, it says it's a false alarm. Rocket sirens. Rocket sirens in Quebec is a false alarm. It says,
Hello, Moto.
hello.
Hello?
Nothing but a spam call. It says 12 minutes ago, it says that UNIFIL troops neutralized 4 tons of explosives likely lifted by Israel in southern Lebanon village. Right, because even though I think August the 4th, Rome, I think over there, Rome in Italy, we supposed to have Lebanon, Israel supposed to be meeting with each talks, which they previously did here in the United States. They're going to have over there Rome, Italy, fourth another round of talks, pushing for the process of a potential withdrawal of the Israel Defense Force over there, the security zones over there in Lebanon, over there in Lebanon, especially the southern part of Lebanon, because you're going to have a heavy clashes been heating up between the Hezbollah and the Israel Defense Force on both sides of the Golden Heights and Israel and Lebanon. But till then, you still gonna have tensions still sparking up in the area, just like over there in the Gaza Strip. You're still gonna have heavy tensions between the Israel Defense Force and the resistance of the Palestinians, just like the Hezbollah soldiers still gonna be clashing against the Israel Defense Force. I think last week they had gathered some Lebanese troops over there in the area, but like I mentioned again, I just might clash with the Hezbollah soldiers, while a small withdrawal from his defense force potentially going to be uh, replaced by the Lebanese soldiers and withdraw the Israel defense force soldiers. So, despite the fact all lead tensions are still going to mount up over in the area, and then you're still going to have, I would say, the pro-Iranian groups and proxy groups, they still going to be going at it with the Israel Defense Force. And then you got the latest clashes been heating up for the past 2.5 weeks between the Houthi rebels over there in Yemen, because you had the I think Saudi Arabia over there in like the northern part of Yemen. So the tensions might heat back up once again, like it did back in 2014 all the way to 2022, because that was the last time they had a trust agreement between the coalition forces of the United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, and Yemen armies versus the Houthi rebels. They had a ceasefire agreement, trust agreement in 2022. Ever since then, it seemed like that trust deal might be kind of gonna be out the window. So tensions might spark back up once again between the Houthi rebels over there in Yemen, because they control parts of those areas over there, versus the coalition forces of Saudi Arabia and the Yemenese armies. So that's another sign of wars, rumors of wars. So these are war, evil, and the pestilence that's still going to continue to show forth in our world today. So, I just want to add a sad note to that. But let me check out some more news articles. I'm going to check out the Arab News, because Arab News, they show some good news articles as well, too. It says the EU condemns Iran's aggressions on French diplomats. It says Netanyahu and Trump reaffirms the Iron Claw commitment to non-nuclear Iranian White House meeting. Yeah, because they want to, they still, because the Trump administration, they still determined to make sure Iran not have a nuclear capability. Because Iran, they still want to control like and I would say a non-uranium and uranium. They still want to control that and then they still want to control parts of the critical moves. So we're going to see if they're going to tackle that issue, which they've been doing for the past couple of months, and that's why you've been having the wars been heating up back and forth on and off. As you know, because you know how Nero 47 is, you know he's kind of double reprobate, like it says in James 1 verse 8. But I just want to add a side note to that. So check out some more news articles from Arab News. Check out the Middle East, Israel, Western Asia. It says the analyst report they said is a return of a civil war in Yemen inevitable? Yeah, it is inevitable. Inevitable, I meant to say. It says Houthis attack a Saudi shipping in Red Sea trade threatens to unravel years of de-escalation and reignite a Yemen civil war. Like I mentioned again back in 2014 and 2022, tensions has been heating back up once again between the Yemen Yemen armies, right between the Yemen armies and the Saudi Arabia coalition. And they be going against the Houthi rebels. So I'm gonna leave it at that. It says analysts warn a regional tensions are drawing Yemen's back into the conflict as Tehran and Washington and Houthis rise the stakes. Yeah, wars and rumors of wars heating back up. It says in devastation, South Lebanon village and residents count on army deployment. It says expect transform money and dash in Syria, right? Because you've been having a lot of activities between the borders of Iraq and Syria. It says Israel to seize vast area in West Bank for military purpose. That's what you call unrighteous creeds. That's kind of strange because since they are in talks about withdrawing the Syrian, the Syrian Defense Force armies, but they still occupying areas over there in the West Bank, the Gaza Strip, the Palestinian territory. Don't that supposed to belong to the Palestinians? That don't that supposed to belong to the Palestinians? Like the Gaza Strip, the West Bank, the Palestinian territory, but you still got the IDF soldiers still occupying those areas. That's what you call unrighteous creeds, and they still doing bombings in that area, over there in the Gaza Strip. And they're supposed to have a peace program deal of the United States and the other nations, but they still using airstrikes over there in the area. That's what that Isaiah 10 verse 1, a lot of unrighteous creeds. So these are signs of that Luke 21. Yep, that Luke 21 verse 25. That's still the full effect. So this 21. Man, these spam calls, we call like crazy. Slovakia. This is the book of Luke 21, verse 25. It says, there shall be signs in the sun and the moon and the stars, and upon the earth the distress of the nations will perplex the sea where wrong. Right, because we still see the nations are in perplexity with the seditions, uprises, uproars, people war, nation against nation, kingdom against kingdom. We see in these signs, the sun, the moon, and stars that Yahushua spoke about, which is only going to continue to increase. And this is the book of Ecclesiasticus, chapter 3, verse 1. It reads, it says, to everything there is a season and a time of every purpose in heaven. Right, so we're in those modern day times and seasons and every purpose in heaven, which is modern day biblical science and science of times. Jab down to verse 8, Ecclesiasticus 3, verse 8 reads, it says, in a time to love, in a time of HATE, and a time of war and time of peace. Right, so we still live in a time of war, we still live in a time of HATE, which that's something going to continue to increase. So these war, evil, and pestilence still going to continue to take place in our world today. We see the signs of that. So something like this. Check out some more news articles in regards to the Middle East. It says Oman proposed a regional mechanism to voluntary fees to manage the shredded for moose. It says Jordan intercepts. Jordan intercepts Iranian drones in eastern desert. I'm surprised they still shoot. Yeah, I'm surprised Iran is still shooting drones at them because the United States and Iran, they had halted attacks for like the third or fourth day already. It says Palestinians say settlers' violence and military raids are bringing them to a breaking point. Yep, Luke 20 verse 25, and they start in perplexity.
This is my, I guess, new up to date, right?
Oh
Bonus
yeah,
upgrade.
yeah, I seen that too. Yeah,
How much are you?
some of them be like $99. Yeah, like $99.
This one, Galaxy A27 on us. This is not necessarily on y'all. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right. Then they charge you for the first month bill, activation fee.
You need to call NASA like that just for fun.
Right.
What? How much I gotta call? That's something. That's something. That's shit.
Right. Then they say it's free on us. Like, yeah, right. Then yeah, get you an activation fee.
It's free. That's money.
Right.
It's not coming out your cash register.
Right.
Mine.
Slovakia. Yep, it says Libya orders army to expel protesters from gas plant. Yep, uproars some people were. Let's see. It says oh yeah, those are previous news articles. So check out RT.com. It says Kafif linked to military bus in Iraq, top officials say. It's quick levels buildings in Japan, many deaths reported. Yep, did that did that already with the earthquakes in diverse places. It says Ukrainian press gang allegedly suits and runs over woman. Damn, love many watching code upwards people would. It says Uganda declares itself Ebola free. I'm surprised because it's still cases are increasing over there in what you call that Congo. Cases are still increasing over there in Congo. It says Kiev launches a major drone waves on Moscow ahead of Trump Zelensky's meeting, right? Which they I think they supposed to be meeting sometime today or something or tomorrow, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, so read this while while the Russia-Ukraine situation tensions are still intensifying. It says the attack was damaged some resident buildings in the suburbs, local authorities have said. It says Ukrainian launched a new waves of drone strikes on Moscow overnight, sending more than 390 UAVs towards the Russian capital. And Mayor Shigre Shabani has said, if I pronounced the name right, it says there have been no reports of casualties. Regional authorities have reported some buildings damaged to residential buildings. Yeah, so that Russian Ukraine situation is only going to intensify. And this is the book of, yeah, get that, Mark 13 and verse 7. Yeah, this is the book of Mark, chapter 13 and verse 7, and it reads, it says, when ye share hear of wars and rumors of wars, be not troubled for such things much need be, but the end should not be yet. Right, so it's going to come to pass, but we're not going to end just yet, and by, but it's not going to end just yet. So more wars and rumors of wars between these armies of a nation, especially between Russia and Ukraine. Now, I believe, I think it was at the summit that NATO summit that Trump was potentially might sell the F-35 jet military plane to Turkey. And I think the same thing with Ukraine, Vladimir Zelensky. They was gonna, I think they was gonna train them to use Patriot weapons and Patriot missiles or something like that. And I think since Zelensky is coming back to meet Trump again at the White House, I think they're gonna have more discussion about that, especially with the ongoing tensions been heating up between Russia and Ukraine. And then Trump's supposed to meet what's his name, Benjamin Netanyahu. We're supposed to be meeting him today as well too about the a non-nuclear campaign that they want to have more talks about to make sure Iran doesn't have no nuclear capability. Let's see. Chat some more news updates. Yeah, those are previous news updates. So check out the other ones. Check out the Time of Israel. I think that's Jerusalem. No, the Jerusalem Post. Yeah, the Jerusalem Post. Check out the Middle East, which is Western Asia. Live updates, prophecy updates. It says Middle East diplomats progress made on temporary Griffin sheep and deal. It says, oh, that's something else. It says this is from June 28th. July the 28th. It says Slovakia. It says he wants me to stay involved. Trump says Netanyahu shares intel on Iran keeping U.S. in the war. It says U.S. President Donald Trump told Fox News that U.S. had been surveilling a Paxi mountain with the greatest cameras in the world and that it was not a big problem. It says the Iraqi militarized this army won't stop Iran using proxies across the Middle East. Yeah, that is true. So it doesn't matter if the Hezbollah might disarm themselves, which I think it was like 2 months ago or a month and a half ago, you had one of the top leaders of Hezbollah was saying that they're not going to fully disarm themselves. And then you had a new leader that was I think one of the new leaders was named a couple of weeks ago over at Hezbollah. It was like a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago. So they made that announcement that they're not going to fully disarm themselves. So they're going to continue to resist. They're going to continue to fight back. It's July 28th, published by Seth Jake Franksman. It says North Iran escalate drone attacks targeting Kurdish opposition groups in northern Iraq. Right, because they've been going, I would say, for the past 2.5 months. Iran and the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps been a heavy clash against the Kurdistan armies and the pro-Kurdistan armies. It says the attacks become increasingly deadly, with some 9 people unalive in July. It says that drone attacks were also launched by an Iranian backed from areas near Mosul, right over there in Moscow. Over there in Iraq, I meant to say. It says, according to the local officials, yep, so that's what you call wars, rumors of wars. Another news article, it says Saudi Arabia slams Iraq over drone attacks launched by the Iran-backed militants. Yeah, what's so crazy about it is now that you got the Houthi rebels was launching missile strikes against the Saudi Arabia. Now you got I think the proxy groups, the pro-Iranian groups. Now they launch it from Iraq over there into Saudi Arabia and over there in the Mediterranean Sea. And so it's definitely still heating up over there in the area. So these talks between Trump and Iran is not, you know, just little talks that let you know tensions are still mounting up over there in the Middle East, even though tensions had cooled back down once again between Iran and the United States. But tensions are still heating up between these proxy groups and these pro-Iranian groups going against the Israel Defense Force, going against the Saudi Arabia coalition and all them. So tensions are still heating back up over there in different parts over there in the Middle East, which is Western Asia, and definitely over there in the Mediterranean Sea, over there in the Red Sea. It says drones intercepted over Jordan, likely launched by the Iranian-backed Iraqi military sources say. Now you got the pro-Iranian groups. They was launching strikes at the Saudi Arabia groups and their coalition forces up Yemen. Now you got the pro-Iranian groups launching airstrikes over there in Jordan because Jordan, I believe they allies with the United States because you got those military bases of the United States in those Gulf area regions where the Arabs be was Ishmaelites. So this is the book of Mark, chapter 13, verse 8. It says, "For nation shall rise against nation and kingdom against kingdom." That's what we're seeing, which goes to Ethnos. It says, "There shall be earthquakes in diverse places." Just like I mentioned, that 7.1 earthquake hit over in Japan. It says there should be famines, right? Famines are increasing and troubles. These are the beginning of sorrows, right? So this was just a quick prophecy update that I want to bring out of July the 28th, 2026 on this Tuesday afternoon. So hopefully this was edifying. And with that, I'd like to give all praises and glory and honor to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakah Kadash, and the Heavenly Father, true name is Yahweh, and his only begotten Son, Bahashem, in the name of Hamashiach Yahushai. Those are the true names in the ancient Paleo Hebrew, the Rosh Hashanah tongue. And I say Barakatham to the elders and apostles, Wa'akim, Wa'akwaf. Until next time, I would say Kwame.